This is Join Us in France, episode 258. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is a podcast where you'll hear pragmatic advice for your next trip to France. Hopefully, you'll get inspired to go beyond Paris and enjoy the rest of France too. On the podcast, I invite travel enthusiasts and Francophiles, such as my guest Matthew Piette on today's episode, who join me for a conversation about Toulouse in the southwest of France. Toulouse is the place where I was born and raised and where I live today, but I promise I let him do most of the talking. I thought it would be interesting to get a regular visitor opinion of Toulouse for a change. After the interview, I will also explain how you can get into the Da Vinci exhibit at the Louvre, which is on now until February 24th, 2020. If you're interested in this episode, I recommend you also check out joinusinfrance.com. Scroll down to the map on the front page, click on the Toulouse area, and you'll see the list of all the other episodes we've published about our fair city and region. Show notes for this episode are on joinusinfrance.com/258, the number 258. Bonjour, Matthew, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Bonjour, Annie. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
It's lovely to hear from you, and we're going to talk about my favorite topic, Toulouse, the lovely city of Toulouse.
Great.
So the reason why I was interested in talking to you about this is we've had several episodes with Elise about Toulouse, but as you know, we both live here, so I guess we're not possibly the most objective people in the world. I was born and raised here, so I was really curious to hear your thoughts as a first-time visitor, and especially one that has visited many other cities in France.
Okay. Yeah. We had been to France. This was actually our fifth trip, my wife Lori and I, to France. And every time we've flown in and out of Paris. And usually as we're preparing for a trip, we do a fair amount of research looking on different areas in France as to where we would want to go of things that we haven't seen. Mm-hmm. I've been listening to your podcast for several years now, and I have listened to pretty much all of your Toulouse episodes.
Cool.
And as we were kind of circling around as to where we should go, we kept coming back to Toulouse just because it's an area we've never been into the south of France. And that was then when we saw as much as that there was as much stuff to do there as there was, we started working on the logistics, and everything pretty much fell into place as far as that is our destination to go.
Yeah. So I assume that the podcast maybe influenced you a little bit.
It did. It certainly did.
Yeah, that's what happens that's what people report anyway.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have the perspective of somebody who does live there, who knows a lot more than just the highlights. Mm-hmm. And you get the impression of seeing it as a real city.
Yeah.
Not just a tourist destination.
Right. So what struck you about Toulouse? What were your overall impressions?
Well, I think that the single biggest thing about Toulouse when we got there and when we spent time there, we were actually there 4 nights, mm-hmm. was that it is a real vibrant city. There are just a lot of things going on, a lot of people out and about.
Yeah.
From the Capitol Square to the Place de Saint Georges.
Yeah.
It's just you really got a sense that people just live there. There certainly were some tourists, but it's nothing like Paris.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And just seeing the students and with the industry there, It reminded me, a lot more of, say, a Chicago than a Washington, D.C. kind of vibe. People live there.
I see what you mean. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yes, it's a place where you will run into a lot more locals than tourists, for sure. When were you here, by the way?
We were, end of April and the beginning of May, so we got into Toulouse.
2019.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we got into Toulouse on the Monday, that last Monday in April.
Okay.
And then stayed until Friday. We went back to Paris.
And you had reasonably good weather?
Oh, the weather was beautiful.
Okay.
It was in the, I think, mid-60s to low 70s the whole time.
Yeah, from somebody who's from Milwaukee.
Right. Yeah, that was that's not our temperature at the end of April.
Yeah, so. I went to Milwaukee several times for work, and I would fly out of Toulouse and end up in Milwaukee, and let me tell you, it's not the same at all.
Right. That's right.
Not the same weather at all, especially in February, which is usually when I had to go. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you see in Toulouse? Tell me about your favorites while you were here.
Our favorites, I guess there are probably three things that I'd put as our highlights. We really liked the Musée des Augustins.
Ah, yes.
There was some remodeling going on there, so one of the floors was not accessible to us.
Yeah, the whole thing is closed right now. I'm not sure when they reopened, but the whole thing is closed at this point.
Yeah, so it is mostly that I think it was that first floor that we were able to go into that had a lot of the Romanesque statues in there.
Yes.
And the statues from the Saint Sernin Basilica.
Yes.
Were in there, and one thing that I thought was really well done with that museum was that you got to see these the sculptures from a perspective that you never get to see them from, right? I mean, you're always looking 30 feet up in the air at them.
Right.
You can't see the detail. But here, so you see these statues, and they're all kind of at odd angles because, they're made to be looked at from that other angle. So that was really interesting. Yes,
because they're at eye level, the way they display them. Now, some of them are on pillars, and some of them are on metal posts, and they just do different things to display them. But it is pretty cool.
There was the room with all of the capitals from, I believe it was three different churches. Mm-hmm. That also was really, really well done. Again, they're at eye level. You can see the art, and they had really great descriptions explaining what the Bible story is. Because most of the time, I was raised Catholic, and if you see a guy with a key, it's going to be St. Peter. But most of them,
we don't know.
We didn't know who they were.
Yeah,
and then they had that very cool lamps above each one, and the different colored light told you which church it was from.
Yeah,
and, I thought that was clever. I didn't pick up on that until about halfway through when Lori pointed it out to me that that's kind of the key.
Right, and in southern France we have mostly Romanesque churches. Gothic churches are a northern France thing, which means that even into the 1200s and the 1300s, in the south of France, they were still building Romanesque churches, and mostly with brick, a lot of brick, local brick. And so it's a very different style than what you see in Paris or Reims or Chartres or places like that.
Yeah, the hotel that we stayed at was the up near the Basilica of Saint Sernin, so we went into there a number of times, and we had read that it's a Romanesque church, so we weren't surprised. But when you go in there and see it, the differences are really striking between there and the Gothic churches. So that was that was really interesting.
Yeah. It's a fairly tall church, but it's still Romanesque. Yes.
I guess the second thing that we really liked was the Jacobin church.
Yes.
That also was just a really striking building. building with the that palm column at the east end was really impressive to see. And we went into the cloisters, and there are those rooms in the back there. That cloister was really magnificent. They had a very nice display. The man who was instrumental in the restoration of it. So that was really an interesting building as well. And was it St. Thomas Aquinas's relics are buried there?
Correct. Yes.
So that was another really fun thing that we saw.
Yeah, it's a beautiful church. It doesn't serve as a church ever. It's a concert hall at times, but only for very small. So they might put in maybe 100 chairs or something in that big open space, and they might have some choral music. But it's not used primarily for that. It's just a place you visit and you go hang out and you just go, wow, that's a beautiful ceiling.
Yeah, and when we were there, I think that was on a Tuesday, and there were just a handful of people in there. Maybe 10, 20 at the most. Yeah. Again, it's nothing like what we've been to Chartres, and there are a lot of people in Chartres all the time.
Yes. No, it's nothing like that. Yeah, you have locals. Those of us who grew up there. I've been in there hundreds of times just to meet somebody or to go somewhere where it wasn't so hot. Like on a day like today, it's 100 degrees in Toulouse today as we record this. And so I'm sure there are a lot of kids, city kids, who are just in there cooling off because the walls are so thick that it doesn't get near as hot as it is outside.
The heat all goes to the top.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were, when we were there, it was May Day. And when, we needed to get our timing to go on the trip on that time. And we're seeing, okay, we're going to be in Toulouse on May Day. Everything's closed in France on May Day. How is that going to affect our trip? And we were a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
But that ended up really being kind of a real benefit to us because it gave us a different set of things to see. So, restaurants and everything were still open on that day. So there were no issues with that.
Yeah.
But what we ended up doing on that day is we first walked up to the Japanese garden in which park is that in?
Compense Caffarelli.
Yes, and that's where the statue of the tango singer is.
Correct. Yes. And I'm gonna have to remember his name now. Monsieur the tango singer. Oh, I forgot. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
So we went through that park. And, the park itself was very nice, and the Japanese gardens were just beautifully done. And it was, that wasn't something that we had expected to see at all. But that was very nice. People in there doing yoga and meditating, and just families, having fun.
Yeah.
And then we went from there. This just took the full day, and we walked all the way down through a Gilets Jaunes demonstration. And we walked all the way down to the other parks, the Grand Ronde and the Jardin Royal.
Oh, that's a long way.
And spent, we must have spent 4 hours just kind of meandering and going through those parks and, stumbling across, Saint Etienne church is there. Mm-hmm. And, there's the World War I monument. And, the parks in France generally are a lot more popular than the parks in the United States. And I don't know if this was because it was May Day, but it was just really, really lively. There was a lot of people out, especially in the, which one was it, Jardin des Plantes?
Yes.
That's where, most of the people were, and there, little kiosks there where people were sitting around having a beer and, It was just a really fun.
It's just pleasant.
A really fun day.
Yeah, it's just pleasant. And really, the biggest problem with May Day is that transportation shuts down, especially city buses and metros and things like that. There is not a single one in Toulouse. So you walked a lot, and that was a great way to handle it. And the tango master is Carlos Gardel, Mr. Carlos Gardel. Okay. Yes, sorry about that. I had forgotten his name.
Yeah, so the whole time we were there, we did not take public transportation once. Not because we were avoiding it or anyway, but we usually do walk a lot. And the only thing that we missed that we probably would have wanted to take public transportation to was the Abattoir Museum.
Yes.
That one will be on our list for next time.
Yeah, the abattoir it's just across the river. It's you can walk to it. I mean, like when you're at Compense Caffarelli, you have to keep walking for another couple of kilometers and then you're there. But it's just a little bit out of the way, yes.
Yeah, and usually when we take public transportation, it's mostly a time thing, right?
Yeah.
You just don't want to. So
yeah.
So there were a couple other museums that we saw that I thought were very good. I'm trying to think. There's the one that is in that mansion.
By Saint-Cernin?
No. It is down right by it's very close to the Pont Neuf. It's a Hotel Assats.
l'Hôtel d'Assisa. Yes, l'Hôtel d'Assisa.
Yeah.
That one's
the
very
museum
nice.
in there was very nice too.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful building, a beautiful Renaissance building. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that we would have missed, except that we did a tour with the Toulouse greeters. And I assume your listeners are familiar with the International Greeters program. We were just Lori and me with a local guide, and he took us around. We probably spent 4 hours walking to different things. Mm-hmm. Very very tailored to what we were interested in.
That's very nice.
And he was very knowledgeable, and just showed us all the stuff. And the greeter program. It's just a nice program altogether.
Yeah. I didn't realize they had one in Toulouse, but that's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
And so did you have a restaurant that sticks out in your mind, or the local gastronomy?
Well, we find this in France all the time, that it's hard for us to get a bad meal, and in Toulouse was certainly the case as well. Our first day there, we went to L'Entrecôte.
Oh yes.
And that was just a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
You go to a restaurant, they have one thing on the menu, and they come in and ask us, how do you want it cooked? And we always say, what does the chef recommend? And our waiter said that you want it this way, and okay, who are we to argue? So they bring the food, and then they bring the frites, and they serve you the frites. And in the United States, we have restaurants where there is all you can eat food too, but they don't really try to force it on you. Here, we had our frites, and she came back and said, well, do you want some more? And we said, no, we're pretty full. No, you want some more? And they put a bunch more on our plate, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I have permission now, so I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, they do like to overfeed us.
Yeah. We also went to Restaurant Émile.
Okay.
That was on the Place Saint-Georges.
Mm-hmm.
And that had been recommended by our hotel because we asked where can you get a good cassoulet here, and they said theirs is the best. So we had to go and do that. So that was fun, and that's just again also a very lively place. So the atmosphere is very good. But there were just a number of other restaurants that we just kind of stumbled upon where the food was really good. There was and it seemed like there are, scores of these restaurants all over the place. Right?
Oh yeah.
And there's just one we just happened to walk across, and it was lunchtime, and we sit at a table, and the owner comes out, and he starts speaking to us in French, and the blank looks on our faces told him he needs to switch to English, so he goes back in, and out comes the cook, who she says she's the only one who speaks any English at all, and hers isn't very good, but she ended up waiting on us the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Thought, well, this is kind of where I want to be, right? In Paris, everybody in the tourist area speaks English.
Yeah.
So it was just nice to,
Yeah, you'll definitely use your French in Toulouse. Because
yes.
Even though a lot of people do speak English in the tourism industry, there are plenty of small restaurants where, no, not so much.
Yeah, and our, my French is good enough to get by. I can ask questions and mostly not understand the answers, but they know what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah. And people are constantly asking me, what are the hidden gems in Paris? And I'm like, by now, nothing is hidden in Paris. I mean, unless it's in a private home.
Right.
Right. To find hidden gems, you have to go away from Paris a little bit. So,
and getting to and from Toulouse, getting anywhere in France is just really convenient. That train from Gare de Montparnasse to Toulouse takes 4 hours.
Yep.
Something like that.
4 hours. It's either 4 hours or 4 hours and 20 minutes. It depends where they stop.
Yeah, and I've had a lot worse Monday mornings than taking a train ride from Paris to Toulouse.
Yes.
So that's part of the adventure for us.
Yes. No, it's very easy to get around Toulouse. So you talked about the cassoulet. Did you like it?
Oh yes, yeah. I'm that's something that we cook when we're at home.
Oh.
In the winter here. So I've been eating cassoulet for a while, but having it there was it's always just a little bit better. Right?
Are you the cook or is your wife the cook?
Well, we both cook.
Oh.
I generally do the meat dishes, and Lori does the salads and vegetables, and so it's something that we like doing, and
very nice.
we certainly tend towards the French, Belgian end of the food spectrum.
That's cool.
So that is good.
So, is there anything you did in Toulouse that you didn't like? First question: most people do not spend 4 nights in Toulouse. Was that too much?
No, okay. I don't think it was. We try to get. We don't want to be at a real hectic pace. I don't want to feel rushed.
Yeah.
And being able to spend a day going to parks. We did laundry one day when we were there. We take plenty of breaks to sit at kind of cafes and watch the world go by. We did. We also went to the Musée Saint Raymond.
Ah, yes.
Which was really nice, but was probably something that if we didn't have that amount of time, we probably would have missed.
Okay.
Because if you want to see Roman ruins, Toulouse isn't the first place that comes to mind. But it was really, it was just really an interesting perspective on Roman history that we would have missed otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that one is the one right by the basilica, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't been inside for years. I live here. I don't go into the museums very much, unless Elise drags me.
They had the displays there. There were the normal, here's a room full of 100 Roman busts, and here are a bunch of coins. But they also had a very, really nicely done archaeological excavation from right that area that you could walk into and see. And it was kind of I think they had a lime kiln there. Sort of the mundane daily tasks of life that we tend to forget about. That these guys had to do that too, right?
Of course. Of course, yeah. Oh, very good. So so maybe Carnavalet. The Musée Saint-Raymond. You might skip, but otherwise it was all worth it. Huh?
Yeah. It certainly was. Just seeing the more Southern European Spanish influences down there that you don't see further north was interesting. I think people who, if you are only in Paris, your perspective are the grand Haussmann boulevards and that view of a city.
Yeah.
And most of France isn't like that, right?
Yeah.
Most of it is these, crazy little, angled streets where you don't really know which corner you came out on, It's like
a lovely maze.
Yeah. And that's where, we ran into some restaurants where we just, let's turn down here and see what's down there. And, this is where we're going to have supper.
Yeah. That sounds good. So is this a place you would come back to at some point? You mentioned you might come back at some point.
It definitely is. We outside of the United States, France is the place that we've been to the most, and you kind of develop skills in going to a place more than once, right? You get better at it.
Yes.
And, so, it is certainly an area that I would like to explore more. It looks like there's some really interesting day trips.
Oh, yeah.
I think, that Albi looks interesting. The whole Cathar history is an interesting kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think a Toulouse, then maybe Marseille or Nice, kind of tying all that together just seems like that would be a really fun trip.
Sounds good. Sounds really good. Okay, well, we've been talking a while. Do you have wisdom you want to share with people? Travel wisdom. I don't know. Toulouse wisdom.
Oh, well, I guess two things. One, and we are guilty of this too. You first get there, and then there's this cafe, and you're kind of like, oh, I don't know how to order in there. I'm a little bit shy about going and doing it. You just got to jump right in because they're people are going to help you, right? People are friendly,
sure,
everywhere, and they're gonna make you feel welcome. And
especially in the south of France, we're friendly. I mean, we're not we're not cold fish.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've been standing on a corner in some city with a map, and somebody comes up to me and says, "Can I help you?" I mean, people do that, because people are proud of their city. They want to show it off. They want to tell you about it. They want to help you. The other thing is any time anybody goes to Europe, they should make sure they know what the emergency phone number is. Because it's not 911.
Nope. It's 112.
112.
Yes.
And it hopefully it will never come up, but it's a handy thing if it does.
Yep. It sure. Yep. That's a good thing to know. And you know what? Toulouse is the kind of city that you come to for the ambiance. It's not. It doesn't have the best museums in the world. It does not have the most magnificent cathedral, most famous cathedral, whatever. We have very nice museums and very nice cathedrals, but Toulouse is a place where you walk around and it'll put a smile on your face because a lot is happening around you. There's always people out. It's a southern town. But, of course, that also means that in the winter, as soon as it gets a little cold or gray, we're all hiding indoors. So what people of Wisconsin would consider lovely weather, we consider like, oh, it's awful, I'm staying indoors.
Yeah, I did listen to your podcast about that you had southern France in the winter.
Yes.
A while back, and I remember the woman out there talking about that. It is maybe 5 degrees or even 0, and I'm thinking, well, you were there at New Year's. That's not so bad.
That's right. All right. Well, I'm delighted that you enjoyed it enough that you'd like to come back. And yes, Toulouse is a fabulous place to put your bags down and then do day trips, because there are a lot of things. And I would say that the ones not to miss are Carcassonne, definitely. Albi is also excellent. I would go to the Niaux, to the Grotte de Niaux. That's towards the Ariège. And we've mentioned several other ones with Elise, but these are the three that I make sure nobody misses. When they come to visit me, I'm like, okay, I'm taking you to those. That's the minimum we're going to do, And then if we have time for more, we do more. But it's truly a place where you can go explore genuine France. It's not flashy. It's not... But it's good. It's good for everyday life, and it's good to have good meals, good wine, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think maybe underrated is too strong of a word, but there isn't nearly as much information for tourists on Toulouse as there is for other cities.
No, because I mean, most of the people come from the aeronautics industry. We do get a lot of visitors. We do get a lot of visitors from Wisconsin because they work for astronautics, and they come to Toulouse. But you have I don't know. We just haven't sold it very well. Like it's like people don't know about it, or they always have they all want to go to Provence. And I guess it might be because there hasn't been an iconic book like A Year in Provence that everybody read. Once somebody reads a book like that, I mean, there's been books about like Carcassonne and whatever, but they're not. They didn't take off like A Year in Provence. And so once people have in their mind, oh, this place is fun, I want to go, then they'll go, even if it's full of tourists.
Yeah.
So we need to, somebody needs to write a good novel that will interest people in coming here.
Well, we were talking with some friends of ours, and they were looking at a destination to go this fall, and we successfully convinced them that Toulouse is where they should go, and they're going in November.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. I have nothing to do with the tourism board, but I'm glad people will enjoy my hometown.
Great.
Thank you so much, Matthew. You've been a delight to talk to, and I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed Toulouse. It's great.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate being on.
Okay. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
No new patrons this week, which hasn't happened in a while. I need your support because, I like to eat. And you get several rewards for your patronage. Visit patreon.com/join us to see the different reward tiers, and thank you so much for giving back. My thanks to Robin Weitz and Stephen Fernandez for sending in a one-time donation using the green button on any page on Join Us in France that says Tip Your Guide. Donations of $20 and above also get you an invite to the secret Facebook group. And if you'd like to support the show without spending a penny you wouldn't have otherwise, before you go shopping on Amazon, go to the bottom of any page on joinusinfrance.com and click on the Amazon ad. Because you came through my site, I get a small commission, and it doesn't cost you a penny more. And it's the same thing with the booking.com ad, and thank you so much for remembering to do that. For my personal update this week, we got our first freeze in Toulouse, and it's definitely colder. Now, someone on Facebook asked if they should bring a raincoat to Paris and rain shoes for the first week of December. Yes, it's winter in France, and this is not Arizona. Okay, it's cold. And because it's winter, I've started feeding the birds. I love to stand at my window with a cup of coffee and watch the blue tits come and go, and I got a lot of those. I want to attract more robins, so I put out food just for them. But so far, I've only seen one. I don't know. And I've seen some birds that I don't recognize as well. I should get a book. And I'll be hosting the book club that I belong to, and also Thanksgiving next week. So that's a bit much, but hey, it's the season. We socialize. So I go all out and do the traditional Thanksgiving feast and on Thursday, on Thanksgiving Day. And then I do it all over again the following Sunday with my French family. And, you know, Thanksgiving is not a French thing, but my family's gotten used to it, and they just like a good party, you know. But to them it's strange to have a feast with no oysters, no foie gras, but they do love the turkey. They barely touch the cranberry sauce, but they always ask for the recipe for the celery and sage stuffing and the cornbread too. Those they really like those. Last year I made a good pumpkin pie, and it turned out it's much tastier if it's made with butternut squash. I didn't know that, but it's better. So, but they're very funny, French people. Before they take anything from the table, they go, "C'est quoi ça?" Meaning, you know, what is this? Because they only see it once a year, so they forget. Renovations on my little dog walking paths are going along very nicely. So they dug water evacuation trenches on both sides, and now they've started down to put down the finish layer, and they kept their word. It's going to be a gravel path. Well, it's not actually gravel. It's a material that's used a lot in the south of France. It's called concassé. It's a limestone that they crush down with a big old road roller machine, you know. And that's the machine with a huge wheel in the front that rolls down slowly and makes stuff really flat. And hopefully when it's all done, my dogs will stop coming home with like a pound of dirt attached to their fur. That would be very nice. Okay, now let's talk about how to get into the Da Vinci exhibit at the Louvre. And I want to thank Patricia Perry for sharing this precious first-hand information with me so I could share it with you. She's been there a couple of times, so she's got it figured out now. The Louvre does a special exhibit almost every year. Last year it was Delacroix, and this year it's Da Vinci. Those special exhibits are usually for a limited time, typically 3 months, because they borrow pieces from all over the world, and you know they can't keep them forever. These exhibits are free. You just need a regular ticket to get into the Louvre, right? So no extra cost on top of the normal ticket to the Louvre. But because this one is super popular and the Louvre is really getting tired of having unmanageably large crowds, you need to reserve a timed entry ticket just for the special exhibit. You don't need to pay for it, but you need a timed ticket. The site to reserve your slot went up in June for an exhibit that didn't start until October. At first, you had a big choice of when to go, but now that it's been open for a while and everybody's talking about it, it's really hard to get tickets. There are still some. I'll put a link to where you go book them in the show notes on joinusinfrance.com/258, and you can get your own ticket there. The Da Vinci exhibit closes on February 24th, 2020. And right now, as of, that's November 21st, just before Thanksgiving, the earliest tickets I could find were late January. And as always with the Louvre, they put a lot of thought into what they display and why. And they've decided to keep the Mona Lisa in her regular room in the Italian painting wing. So let me repeat that. The Mona Lisa is not in the special exhibit about Da Vinci. Why did they do that? Well, Mona Lisa is so popular that it attracts way too many people, including loads of people who couldn't care less about Da Vinci, really. They don't know who he is or who painted it. They just want the selfie in front of his iconic painting. And that's okay. It's allowed. So, for those of you who want to see Mona Lisa, follow the signs to the Italian painting wings. It's really hard to miss. And you'll get to a line that may or may not be ginormous, depends on the time of day. And when you get to the front, they'll let a group of about 10 of you in front of Mona Lisa for about 30 seconds. And then a security person will move you along. So that's the Mona Lisa experience. which is better, I think, than the huge crowd that it used to be in the whole room in front. It was like a big, messy crowd, and only the most daring visitors ever got to go up close. But I agree with Patricia that it would be better if Mona Lisa had her own room, preferably near an entrance, so that people who just want to see it could be in and out without clogging up the whole museum. Maybe someday, but I kind of doubt it, because if you bring people into the museum, you want them to look at great art, and then you should let them see just the one piece. So I'm not sure that'll ever fly in France, but I don't know. Thank you so much for listening. Have an amazing Thanksgiving if you celebrate that. And instead of fighting over politics, how about you ask family around the table what their favorite podcast is? You'll discover great shows, and someone surely will ask you, what are podcasts anyway? I keep hearing about them, but I don't know what they are. Half of Americans still haven't listened to a podcast. They've heard of him, but they don't know how to listen. So let's tell them, shall we? And if you want to tell them about Join Us in France, even better, but it's hardly the only one that's worth listening to. Send questions or feedback to Annie@joinusinfrance.com. Have a great week of trip planning, a great week in France if that's where you are, and I'll talk to you next week. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel Podcast is written and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2019 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.